Hi, scholars. It's Miss Lewis again. Hope you're well and staying indoors with your families, enjoying some time. I'm going to be reading a story about worms and how they help farmers and gardeners with soil. As we read, I want you to jot down some notes so that you can use your notes to answer the comprehension questions that will be posted in Google Classroom. Also, I have a big question. I want you to think about how the character's feelings change in this story. In this story, the character feels one way about worms in the beginning, and at the end of the story, the character is going to feel another way about worms. I want you to identify and think to yourself, what is the change in the character's feelings about worms, and why did these feelings change? That is your big super question. Put your thinking caps on. Are you ready? Let's get started. The name of the book is called Yucky Worms. Yucky Worms by Vivian French. One day when I was in Grandma's garden, Grandma dug up a slimy, slithery, wiggly worm. Yuck! I said. Throw it away. Throw it away? Grandma looked horrified. Would you throw away one of your friends? You can't be friends with a worm, I said. You can't even tell which end is which. Yes, you can. Watch. Grandma put the worm down. It gave a kind of squirmy wiggle and disappeared really fast. Pointy end first. As the rounded end vanished, Grandma said, "There goes its tail." I bent down to look, and I could see it had left a little tunnel. "Where did it go?" I asked. "Home," Grandma said. "It's an earthworm. It lives underground." But what does it eat? Dirt? I wanted to know. It eats tiny stones and bits of dirt, Grandma told me. But worms eat other things too, like rotting leaves and flowers and fruit and dead insects. They especially like eating at night when it's cool. The stones and dirt help to grind everything up in the worm's stomach, and then the worm poops it back out. Worms come above ground to find things to eat. They pull their food back down as they wiggle into the ground again. Grandma pointed at the flower bed. "Look, can you see it?" I bent down and I saw what looked like a weird little curly worm made of dirt. "That's worm poop," Grandma said. "It's called a cast. You know when you recycle things? Well, worms do it too. There's still a lot of goodness left in the things a worm eats. And when the goodness comes out again as poop, it helps plants to grow big and strong. And as the worms move around under and on top of the soil, the poop gets spread around the garden." That's why worms are my friends. Grandma gave me a thumbs up. And it's not just their poop that's good for plants. The tunnels they dig loosen the soil so roots can stretch out and air and rainwater can get in. "But it's dangerous being a worm," Grandma said. I stared at her. "Dangerous?" I asked. She smiled at me. "Lots and lots of animals think worms make the most delicious dinner. Birds love them, and so do moles, badgers, frogs, hedgehogs, and foxes. Even some slugs eat worms, and humans accidentally slice through them with spades and spikes and poke them with forks. It's a tough life. Cutting them in half doesn't hurt them, Grandma, I said. They just turn into two worms and keep on growing. Grandma shook her head. Poor worms. Lots of people think that, but it's not true. She put her fork down. Time for a snack. Grandma had tea and I had orange juice. Can I dig up a worm? I asked. If it rains, Grandma said, the worms will come up on their own. Worms breathe through their skins. They don't mind the soil around them being wet. But if the tunnels are flooded, they come up to the surface to move around more easily. I took a cookie. What if it doesn't rain? Grandma winked at me. We'll use the watering can and pretend. I finished my cookie as fast as I could. Can we trick the worms now? Grandma filled the watering can, and I watered the ground. Then I stood back. I didn't want worms chewing on my shoes. They only put their heads out, Grandma promised, and it'll be a while before they do. When it's very hot and the soil gets too dry to slither around, a worm will wiggle down to where the soil is still damp, curl up, and wait for the rain. When it's very cold, a worm will wiggle down even deeper below the frost level and curl up with other worms for warmth. Grandma was right. I had time to eat two more cookies before she said, Look! Wow, I said. I could just see the tip of the worm above the ground. Now watch this. Grandma stomped her foot and the worm disappeared. Did it see you? I asked. Grandma shook her head. Worms don't have eyes. They feel vibrations. And a thump like that might mean a hungry bird is landing. Danger. Grandma dug her fork in the ground. Up came lots of dirt and wiggly worms. She picked one up and washed it in the watering can. Mustn't drop it, she said. They can't swim. Grandma put the clean worm on some paper and held it near my ear. I could hear a tiny rustling noise. What's that? They're covered in little bristles, Grandma said. The bristles and their muscles help them move. I've got muscles too, I bent my arms so Grandma could see. If you got so many muscles, she said, maybe you'd like to help me plant my sunflower seeds. Okay, I agreed, and then I thought of something. When I go to school on Monday, I'm going to say that I made lots of new friends. Good idea, Grandma said. But, I said, I'm not actually going to say that they were people. I'm going to say they're worms. And that is the end of our story. Remember, you are going to answer the questions posted in your Google Classroom. The big idea and the big question is, what was the change of the character throughout the story? The character thought one way about worms, but ended up thinking another way at the end of the story. I want you to tell me how the character changed in the story. Thanks for reading with me, guys. I had so much fun with you, and I hope you enjoyed the book just as much as I did. Have a great day. Bye.